You've been lied to about your own mind. You think you're thinking freely, but most of your thoughts aren't even yours. They were planted by your parents, your teachers, your friends, and the endless stream of noise the world throws at you. You wake up, scroll, consume, react, and call it free will. But Machiavelli would laugh at that illusion. He'd tell you, the real power doesn't belong to the one who controls others. Chas. It belongs to the one who controls the battlefield inside his own mind. That's why before you can ever influence the world, you have to brainwash yourself. Not in the way propaganda does, but in the way power does. Ruthlessly, deliberately, with precision. See, your mind is already brainwashed. The only question is, by whom? Every I can't, every I'm not good enough. Every time you hesitate when you know exactly what you should do, that's not you. That's a program, installed over years of repetition. The world trained you to stay in line, to fear disapproval, to worship comfort, to believe that self-doubt means humility. But Machiavelli would call that the perfect design for weakness, because a man who doubts his own judgment can be ruled by anyone confident enough to sound certain. So the first step is brutal awareness. You have to catch the infection in real time. Notice when you speak to yourself in defeatist language, when you automatically expect things to go wrong, when you say, that's just how I am. That's not who you are. That's who you were taught to be. And every time you catch one of those thoughts, you don't argue with it. You overwrite it instantly. Replace, I can't do this with I am doing this. Don't wait to believe it. You command it. Machiavelli's genius was in understanding that belief follows behavior, not the other way around. Act like the person you intend to become, and the mind rewires itself to obey that image. But here's what most people never grasp. Brainwashing yourself for success isn't about positive affirmations. It's about psychological warfare. You're going to war against the old self that wants you comfortable and predictable, and that enemy will fight back hard. It will disguise itself as logic. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe later. Maybe I should rest first. Those thoughts sound reasonable, but they're not reason, they're resistance. The moment you start rising, your subconscious will test how serious you are. Machiavelli would say, crush rebellion before it spreads. The second you detect weakness in your own camp, strike. Don't debate it, replace it. Discipline your thoughts the way a ruler disciplines his advisors. Reward the ones that serve your empire. Exile the ones that don't. The brain is loyal to whoever commands it most consistently. If you give it mixed orders, ambition one day, apathy the next, it follows chaos. You must become the tyrant of your own mental state. Every morning, dictate the tone of your day like an order from a king. Every night, review your mental kingdom. Who spoke the loudest today, your power or your fear? If fear won, don't scold yourself. Study it, find its source. Fear thrives in vagueness. Define it, and it dies. Write it down. Turn it from fog into text. The moment you can see it, it loses its mystery. And once it loses its mystery, it loses its power. Still, to destroy negative thoughts completely, you must understand their function. They exist because your mind doesn't trust you yet. It's seen you promise change before and not deliver. So it doubts your new commands. That's not sabotage, that's memory. You have to rebuild trust through proof. Do small, uncomfortable acts that confirm the new identity you're forcing upon yourself. If you tell yourself, I am disciplined, don't wait for motivation. Go do one disciplined thing right now. Don't wait to feel confident. Speak like you already are. Don't wait to be fearless. Move while afraid. The repetition reprograms the system. Think of your mind like a kingdom after a coup. The old advisors, the voices of insecurity, comparison, and guilt, still linger in the court, whispering treason. You can't remove them all at once. You replace them gradually with loyal ones, thoughts of focus, decisiveness, pride, and progress. But loyalty isn't built overnight. You have to reward those new voices with results. Every win, no matter how small, is a message to your subconscious. This ruler means business. The key mistake people make is treating their negative thoughts as truth instead of signals. Machiavelli would treat them as enemy intelligence, useful data. When your mind says you can't handle this, it's revealing where your old programming fears exposure. That's exactly where you need to strike. Attack the discomfort directly. Each time you do, that voice gets quieter. Not because it disappears, but because it learns it no longer controls the throne. Now, there's a deeper layer to this. Success isn't about thinking positively, it's about thinking strategically. A strategist doesn't waste energy fighting every emotion. He uses them. Anger becomes fuel. Fear becomes information. Doubt becomes a test of conviction. Machiavelli understood that control doesn't mean silence. It means direction. You don't stop the storm, you harness it. Every strong mind you admire, every unshakable person you've ever seen, they aren't calm because they have no chaos. They're calm because they train the chaos to serve them. So when a negative thought arises, don't panic. Interrogate it. Ask, what is this trying to protect me from? Failure? Embarrassment? Judgment? Then realize every fear protects comfort, not growth. You're not scared of failure. You're scared of identity collapse. The death of the version of you that was safe and accepted. But that version was never meant to survive your next level. To brainwash yourself for success, you must be willing to psychologically assassinate who you were. The weak ruler inside your mind must die for the strong one to reign. Machiavelli would have called it the necessary cruelty, the cruelty of cutting away anything that weakens command. You must stop negotiating with your excuses as if they deserve a seat at your table. They don't. Each excuse, no matter how poetic, is a declaration of submission to the world's influence. Every time you obey it, you teach your brain that comfort outranks vision. You train it to prioritize ease over dominance. And that's how most people lose before they even start. The enemy doesn't have to conquer them because they've already surrendered to convenience. So here's what you do. Every time you feel resistance, you act immediately. Don't give your brain time to vote. Action resets identity faster than thought. Each decisive move tells the subconscious, we follow orders now. And once the brain starts to obey, you no longer need motivation, you have momentum. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said fortune favors the bold. Not because luck loves courage, but because courage eliminates hesitation, and hesitation kills power. But to sustain this transformation, you can't just attack the old thoughts, you have to replace their environment. Your surroundings, your language, your routines, all of them reinforce mental programming. If you spend your day around people who worship mediocrity, your brain absorbs mediocrity as normal. If you constantly consume content that glorifies struggle instead of victory, you'll identify with the victim. Brainwashing yourself means redesigning your ecosystem until success feels inevitable. Remove anything that contradicts your vision. That includes people, habits, even your own tone when you speak. Every time you say, I'll try, you weaken your own authority. Replace it with, I will. Replace if with when. Every word is a command to your subconscious. Make sure your language serves your rule, not rebels against it. And here's a secret. True mental domination doesn't come from erasing emotion. It comes from mastering perspective. Every negative thought is born from misinterpreted meaning. You fail and you label it defeat. But what if failure is proof that you're still in the fight? You're alive, moving, learning. The weak mind looks at loss and says, I'm not good enough. The Machiavellian mind looks at loss and says, good, I've just gathered intelligence. Same event, different ruler. One collapses, the other strengthens. That's brainwashing in its purest form, changing meaning so reality can't break you. Once that becomes instinct, negativity becomes your servant. When your mind whispers, you can't, you smirk, because you know that's the alarm signaling where your next victory lies. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. And that's when you realize you were never meant to eliminate negativity. You were meant to enslave it, to take the darkness that once chained you and make it guard your throne. Because when you rule your own mind, no one else ever can. But let's be clear, this transformation doesn't happen because you listen to motivational noise for a week. It happens when you start conditioning your mind like a general trains an army. Every day, you're either drilling strength or feeding weakness. Most people think discipline means doing hard things. They're wrong. True discipline means eliminating the option of weakness altogether. You don't negotiate with your emotions every morning. You set an order and execute. You decide, not feel. That's brainwashing yourself for success. It's building a dictatorship in your own mind where only the voice of progress has the right to speak. Machiavelli understood that power is never accidental. It's designed. And your thoughts are the architecture of your power. Think of them as citizens in your internal state. Each one either pays you in focus or steals from you in fear. So start auditing them like a ruler hunting corruption. When you catch a thought that says, "You're not ready," interrogate it like a traitor. Who sent you? Who benefits if I believe you? Usually, it's comfort. Comfort has always been the enemy's most persuasive spy. It doesn't kill you outright. It convinces you to delay execution. And every time you delay, you weaken command. The real art of brainwashing yourself lies in repetition with precision. Every morning when you wake up, before your phone, before the world's noise, you declare what today means. Not a vague, "I'll do my best." You issue orders. Today, I build. Today, I dominate the task I've been avoiding. Today, I choose forward motion over perfection. These statements may sound small, but they're the psychological equivalent of fortifying a city wall. The more you repeat them, the more automatic they become. And soon, they don't feel like lies. They feel like laws. This is what separates the powerful from the emotional. Weak people think feelings are instructions. Strong people see feelings as weather, temporary, irrelevant. You can't control the weather, but you can control how you move through it. The rain doesn't stop the general from marching his army. He adjusts formation and continues. When doubt rains on you, you don't stand still and complain, you advance. Because if you wait for perfect mental conditions, you'll die waiting. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood aspects of self-control, the voice in your head that mocks your efforts. That cynical voice that says, "This won't last. You always fail. Why even bother?" Most people think they need to silence it. Machiavelli would disagree. He'd tell you, never silence a critic, turn it into a tool. Let that voice become your motivator. Every insult it throws is a challenge to prove it wrong. That's the game of power, turning attack into energy. If you can train your brain to see pain as proof of progress, you'll stop fearing struggle altogether. You'll start chasing it. Because here's the truth. Your brain learns from contrast. It can't define strength without tasting weakness. It can't define courage without confronting fear. So when those negative thoughts rise, they're not signs of failure. They're signs that you're approaching the boundary between who you are and who you could be. The mind resists crossing that line because it knows that after it, there's no going back. And that's exactly why you must cross it. Every time you resist negativity and choose direction over distraction, you earn a psychological promotion. You gain authority, and authority compounds. One decisive act of strength today gives you leverage tomorrow. But that's only if you stay consistent. Consistency is what transforms brainwashing into belief. Without it, you're just having arguments with yourself every day. But with it, the mind stops arguing. It starts obeying. Now let's expose something people rarely admit. Most negative thoughts are just lazy rehearsals of failure. They're the brain's way of protecting your ego. Because if you fail mentally before trying, you never have to risk real humiliation. It's self-defense disguised as realism. But power doesn't tolerate self-deception. The Machiavellian way is brutal honesty. If I fail, I'll rebuild. If I'm judged, I'll outlast them. If I'm doubted, I'll become undeniable. That's not arrogance, it's insurance. You predecide that no outcome will shake your direction. But there's another layer to this war, a more silent one. The people around you. You can't brainwash yourself in an environment that constantly reinstalls the old program. Every conversation, every comment, every energy exchange is a form of conditioning. When you surround yourself with people who normalize fear, who disguise weakness as realism, your mind slowly bends back into submission. You start doubting what you once believed. That's why the strong always retreat to solitude before conquest. Not to escape the world, but to rewrite their internal code without interference. If you really want to destroy negative thoughts, stop feeding them socially. Don't vent them, don't dramatize them, don't seek comfort for them. That's how they survive, through attention. Silence is starvation. When you stop narrating your weakness to others, it starts dying quietly in the dark. You'll notice one day, it's simply gone. You won't remember when it left, because you stopped giving it stage time. That's the Machiavellian purification process. Ruthless, quiet, permanent. And if you want an even sharper tactic, start weaponizing imagery. The mind speaks in pictures, not paragraphs. So when you face a challenge, visualize yourself in complete command. Not vague confidence, visceral control. See yourself walking into the meeting, into the gym, into the unknown with composure. Replay that image over and over until it becomes your brain's default film reel. That's psychological propaganda used on yourself. The most dangerous rulers in history didn't control people with logic. They controlled them with imagery. So use it on your own subconscious. Become your own propaganda machine. Here's the paradox, though. When you do this right, you stop needing to fight negative thoughts altogether. They still come, but they hit a mental wall. Your self-image becomes so strong that negativity can't find an entry point. That's the end goal. You don't want a quiet mind, you want an unbreakable one. The kind that hears chaos and remains unmoved. But let me warn you, once you start rewiring this way, your external life will begin to test you. People will feel the shift. They'll sense that you're no longer emotionally accessible in the way they remember. Some will call you cold. Some will call you arrogant. That's how they label someone who refuses to be manipulated by guilt anymore. You must endure that transition, because the old world only respects the mind it can't control. So when someone tries to provoke you, remember, it's not personal. It's a test of your conditioning. They're subconsciously checking if the old version of you still exists. If you react emotionally, you confirm it. If you remain calm, you prove evolution. That's the Machiavellian mark of transformation. Not louder power, but quieter control. And soon, you'll notice something strange. The same thoughts that once overwhelmed you now amuse you. The same fears that once froze you now guide you. Because when you brainwash yourself properly, negativity becomes feedback, not failure. It becomes your compass pointing directly toward your next area of mastery. But to reach that level, there's one last frontier left to conquer, the language of your subconscious itself. Because even now, beneath all the conscious effort, there's a deeper layer still running the old scripts, silently, automatically, shaping every decision you make without asking for permission. And if you want absolute dominance, you'll have to descend there next. That deeper layer is the true battlefield. You can't reach it with logic, and you can't command it through motivation. It's ancient, emotional, and stubborn. It doesn't care about what you say, it listens only to what you prove. That's why most people can't truly reprogram themselves. They speak affirmations to their conscious mind, but their subconscious watches their actions and laughs. You tell yourself you're confident, but then you avoid confrontation. You tell yourself you're powerful, but then you scroll through other people's lives and compare. That's not brainwashing, it's contradiction. And contradiction breeds confusion. The subconscious only follows consistency. So to brainwash yourself effectively, you have to communicate in the language it understands, emotion and repetition. Not empty hype, but emotional intensity. Every time you visualize your future, you have to feel it like it's already happening. The brain doesn't distinguish imagination from reality. It responds to emotional charge. If you can generate that charge around success, focus, and dominance, you rewire faster than any book or strategy could ever teach you. Machiavelli would have seen this as psychological manipulation turned inward. Instead of deceiving others, you deceive your own resistance until it forgets what failure felt like. Now, let's be ruthless about something most people avoid: your identity. You can't destroy negative thoughts while keeping the same identity that created them. Every belief you hold about who you are was installed at some point, often by people who didn't even know themselves. I'm not confident. I'm lazy. I'm an overthinker. None of those are facts. They're habits of identification. You've repeated them enough times that your brain built an identity around them. So now, whenever you try to change, that old identity fights to survive. It whispers, "This isn't you." That's why transformation feels unnatural at first, because the old self is dying, and it doesn't want to. To finish that death, you must stop defending your limitations. Don't say, "I've always been like this." Say, "I've been trained like this," and then retrain. When Machiavelli spoke of rulers shaping the destiny of states, he was also describing this internal process. You are both the ruler and the state. And if the state rebels, if the citizens, your thoughts, turn chaotic, you don't negotiate with rebellion. You restore order. You reestablish authority. The new identity doesn't need to feel true yet. It just needs to be enforced until the subconscious accepts it as law. And it will. Because the mind is loyal to repetition. It doesn't care what's real. It only cares what's consistent. You could tell yourself you're unstoppable every day for 6 months, and eventually your subconscious would stop arguing. It would start looking for evidence to support the statement. That's how the mind works. It bends reality to match its programming, which means you can use that same mechanism to destroy negativity at its root. But this requires something most people never develop: emotional discipline. You can't keep reinforcing your identity one moment and tearing it down the next. Every time you speak in self-pity, every time you dramatize your struggles, you undo hours of conditioning. You're feeding the exact system you're trying to erase. So stop narrating your pain. Start narrating your power. Not for others, your brain is listening. Understand this. Your subconscious isn't moral. It doesn't care if your self-talk is kind or cruel. It only records what's repeated. So if you say, "I'm always anxious," it doesn't judge. It obeys. It keeps finding reasons to make you anxious because that's the command it's been given. Change the command, and the results change. But you must say it like you mean it. The subconscious doesn't respond to fake confidence. It responds to tone, conviction, rhythm. Speak with authority, not hope. And this is where most people fail. They treat mental mastery like a mood, not a mission. You can't wait until you feel ready to speak with power. You have to speak with power to become ready. This is where Machiavelli's cold realism comes in. He knew that men act according to necessity, not virtue. You won't change because it feels right. You'll change because it becomes necessary. When you reach that point where the old self is unbearable, the reprogramming finally begins. Let's go deeper. Every emotion you feel is a chemical message, not a prophecy. When you feel anxious, it doesn't mean something's wrong. It means your body is rehearsing an old pattern. You've just mistaken habit for intuition. The way out isn't to suppress it, but to reinterpret it. The next time fear appears, tell yourself, "My body is preparing energy for performance." Say it again and again until your brain believes it. This isn't delusion, it's reframing. You're teaching your nervous system to associate intensity with readiness instead of danger. Over time, that shift alone can rewrite your emotional DNA. And once that happens, something incredible begins to unfold. You start craving pressure. You start seeking out situations that once terrified you. Because every victory in that state gives you dopamine, the brain's chemical reward for dominance. It's not arrogance, it's adaptation. You've trained the system to see challenge as nourishment. That's when you know you're winning the inner war. But there's still one more truth. The final step most never take. You can't brainwash yourself for success if you still secretly need validation from failure. Some people unconsciously cling to their pain because it gives them identity. I'm the one who struggles. I'm the one who fights. They don't want peace. They want purpose through suffering. And the mind, ever loyal, keeps feeding them situations that reinforce that narrative. You'll never evolve if pain is your proof of depth. You must replace suffering with strategy. Machiavelli would say, "Don't dramatize your wounds, weaponize them. Turn every insecurity into insight, every failure into leverage. If rejection used to break you, let it now refine you. If fear used to freeze you, let it now forecast where your next strength must grow." This is what it means to brainwash yourself like a ruler. You take everything that was once used against you and use it for yourself. And once that becomes your standard, negativity can't survive in you anymore. It may whisper, but it no longer commands. Because now, every thought that enters your mind faces interrogation before it's allowed to stay. Every idea must serve your power or it's executed instantly. That's mental dictatorship, the final form of freedom. You're no longer at the mercy of emotion, memory, or doubt. You've become the ruler Machiavelli described, not over people, but over yourself. And that's when success stops being something you chase. It starts being something you radiate. Because a brainwashed mind doesn't need external validation. It doesn't wait for luck or perfect timing or understanding. It moves, it adapts, it commands. And in doing so, it attracts everything weaker minds call impossible.